Hello, everyone. My name is Jun. I'm one of the events coordinators here at Shelf Life Books. First thing I would like to point out is the closed caption button on your bottom right, which can be used to turn off automatic captions on or off. Actually, I've already turned them off, so you don't have to worry about that. Secondly, I would like to request that you turn off your microphones and keep them muted. We will be recording this event, so if that makes you feel uncomfortable, feel free to turn your cameras off as well. Shelf Life Books is honored to celebrate the release of Joyce Doolittle Stories, a community telling, which is edited by Sally Truss, who will be also be our host for this evening. We do have copies of the book in store, and we are open for browsing, hence my mask. And we're also doing curbside pickup and free deliveries within Calgary with certain price minimums. I'll pop some links into the chat where you'll be able to order the books online, or you can just come down and pay us a visit. Before we get started, I'd like to say that we at Shelf Life Books acknowledge that we are on the lands of the Treaty 7 people. That's the Blackfoot from Siksika, the Kainai, and the Piikani, the Denisarsi from Tsutena, and the Stoney Nakoda from Morley, the Bearspaw, Chiniki, and Wesley First Nations. We also walk in the footsteps of the Métis people from Region 3, the Métis Nation of Alberta. Before I hand things over to Sally, I would like to give everyone a moment to give a quick wave to the camera. I'm going to be switching the camera right now over to gallery view. So if you would like, to wave to everybody, feel free. Give a big wave. Hello, everybody. Look at all these faces. This is great. Okay. Now, Sally, the floor is yours.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Holy moly, it has taken us quite a while to get here. And we were all kind of on the same ship together, but not quite on the same ship together. It has been a very interesting year. I'm extraordinarily proud to be part of this project. Yeah, it's huge. And I really hope that you're going to all run down to Shelf Life Books and get your copy as soon as you can. The ones at Shelf Life are quite special. Of course, they're all special. They're all like our children. Anyway, now it's possible, because we're doing this for the first time, that there might be some technical glitches. If there are any technical glitches, just have patience with us. We're going to laugh and do our best. And there we are. So first of all, I'm going to move into sharing my screen. And sharing my screen is always a little bit of a hassle, but here we go. And this would give a chance for Lisa Doolittle to speak to you directly tonight.
I'm so glad everyone is here, wherever here is for you. Joyce's final wishes were simple, or so they seemed. She imagined a friendly potluck meal at the Pump House Theatre. Megan and I were at Mom's apartment, talking about Joyce, exclaiming over forgotten family objects, and sadly filling boxes. And then COVID arrived. Suddenly, Megan was no longer allowed in that seniors community building. Suddenly, she had to go home to London. Joyce's simple request became an impossible dream. We still hope to find a new way to honor that wish. Then Sally Truss invited us for dinner. So much gratitude to our dear family friend who first thought of making a book of memories for my mum. She brings a deep experience in editing and event organizing and deep love for Joyce and our family. She steered everything, every detail, and there were plenty of details up to this moment where we have a fine book and a chance to bring together Joyce's people in this event. Thank you, Sally. Thanks too to the many, many others who so willingly collaborated on the book and on the event. And to all of you out there, Joyce's friends and colleagues and our family, Megan and I are overwhelmed by your support, expressed in so many ways, including wonderful contributions to this book. All through these months, our communications with you have brought so many moving and funny stories and insights into Mum's life. And in our reaching out and you reaching back, you honor and animate Joyce's memory. That has been remarkable, wonderful, and so important to us.
And there we are. I'd like to introduce you, please, to Alicia Beaumont, who is working with us tonight, making sure that we stay on track. Alicia and I work together at Stafford House International, and we have been teaching together English in Monterrey, Mexico, online for the last month. So over to Alicia.
Thank you, Sally. So we will have two readers this evening. The first one, we have Christopher Hunt. And Christopher has received 8 of Calgary's Betty Mitchell Awards for his acting, most recently for Theatre Calgary's 12th Night. For over 30 years, he's performed for theatre companies large and small in Calgary and across the country. Chris has toured to the UK with the Ghost River Theatre and One Yellow Rabbit, and he saw many corners of Canada with the solo Shakespeare-inspired show When That I Was. He occasionally works as a director, adjudicator, and writer, and he enjoys playing a bit of guitar, mandolin, and claw hammer banjo. Christopher was recently humbled to receive the 2018 Harry and Martha Cohen Award for his significant and sustained contribution to the Calgary theatre community. Welcome, Christopher. Next, we also have joining us this evening, Shauna Burnett. Shauna has been performing on stage for over 30 years in productions in Calgary and beyond. In Calgary, she is known for her recent work with the Shakespeare Company, Handsome Alice Theatre, and Vertigo. In 2008, she was honored with the Betty Mitchell Award for Best Actress in a Drama with Sage Theatre. She has also appeared on the stages of Lunchbox, Verb Theatre, and of course, in Theatre Calgary's A Christmas Carol. She has also performed at ATP, Stage West, Theatre Junction, Ghost River, Quest Theatre, Shadow Theatre, the Globe, and the Blythe Festival. And she is also an avid gardener, and she likes to play with floral design. Shauna is here with us tonight as one of our readers for this tribute to Joyce Doolittle. Over to you, Shauna.
Thank you, Alicia. Acting Upon the World, a short biography of Joyce Doolittle, 1928 to 2020, by Elizabeth Herbert. The wide steps leading up to the fine old house in Lower Mount Royal were somehow wider and steeper than they looked. I knocked. Some slow footsteps followed, and the clicking of a heavy latch as the door opened. For 1 second, I saw no one. Then the top of a salt and pepper head. "Oh, you're here," she asserted in that voice. Within the hour and for the rest of my life, I would, from my 5 feet 8 inches, look up to Joyce Doolittle. Over to you, Chris.
Hi there. This next excerpt from the book is from Carolyn Eliza Hyde, Amy's daughter. What I remember and loved most about Grandma Joyce is that she was an actress and a damned good one, in my opinion. I thoroughly enjoyed helping her learn her lines for the plays she was in when I was a child. Not only was it a ton of fun, but it also helped me get to know her a lot better, especially how she thought about life as a whole. It was during our time working on The Chairs when she mentioned her favorite quote, "Hell is other people," from the play No Exit. It has stuck with me to this day. It was also the first time I ever saw her flip the bird. I will never forget her performance in Queen Lear, the play that was written for her 80th birthday by her good friend Eugene Stickland. I thought it was fabulous that he wrote that she stands on her head right into the script. It was delightful, and I remember chuckling during the premiere. Truly unapologetic, with sharp wit, yet she always found a way to put a smile on your face. Over to you, Sally.
Thanks, Chris. So, Carolyn, if you're checking us out tonight and if you're out there, Here's a little clip for you just to follow up. So, you know your grandma Joyce, right? So here she is backstage after a performance in the dressing room at Theatre Calgary after To Kill a Mockingbird. She's having a chat with Brooke Johnson and talking about what it's like to be able to be totally unapologetic and be a really horrible, racist, terrible person. Here she goes with Brooke Johnson.
And you in this play, you are a vicious racist.
And that, yeah, a terrible woman. Well, I think the actor has to accept the world of the play, and you can't bring your contemporary sensibility to a period piece. You have to immerse yourself in the period, and
this is what this play's about.
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Do you like playing villainous?
Oh, I like playing. Yeah, I like playing anything. But it's fun to be a bad person because you get to take that part of your personality and legitimately use it.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And you can't do that in life. But when I came back to acting, you know, as an older woman, it was like coming home. I thought, oh yeah, I really like this. This is really wonderful. So, I don't know. I like what I'm doing at the moment, as long as I'm doing something.
And there you have it. Joyce was always doing something, wasn't she? And there we go, the message, the fun of being someone who's truly nasty. It is good. Shauna, over to you.
In the Trailer Park for Married Students by Scotty Martinson. I found a couple of photos just where they should be. Astonishing. One is of the Indiana University trailer court where we all lived in the school year of 1951 to 52. I learned from the back of the photo it was called Woodlawn Court. The other is a picture of the car Quent sold us, which a couple of years later we drove from Wisconsin to Massachusetts and back, believe it or not. The Eastern cops didn't believe our plates and stopped us a couple of times. I first met Joyce in 1952 when we were both mad women in an Indiana University production of The Mad Women of Chilot, in which Joyce was a magnificent Ariella. We discovered that we were living about 6 units apart in the trailer park for married students set up next to the stadium. 25-foot trailers with gasoline stoves, kerosene heaters, communal laundry, all for $25 a month. We soon became friends and did lots of socializing back and forth. Eventually, we even bought their 1930 Chevy Jezebel and drove it for several years. And we celebrated when Joyce became pregnant with their first child. Over to you, Chris.
This next excerpt is from Keith Turnbull, who taught with Joyce at the U of C back when I was going there in the mid-'80s. Early days, a very short shelf life. Question, how on earth did the Doolittles, including their 4 young children, end up in Calgary in 1960? Answer, they heard the siren call of CBC radio, of course. At a time when so many young Americans were coming north to dodge the war fever south of the 49th, Quentin and Joyce were seduced by radio waves, which to them portrayed a civilization in a social, cultural, and political utopia. So, when Quentin's application to the 2-person music department in the newly independent University of Calgary was accepted, they loaded their 4 children and all their worldly possessions that would fit into a second-hand Buick station wagon and set out from Rochester, New York, across the continent to Calgary, Alberta. When Joyce tells the story, she skips most of the next bit, but takes up the tale again with their arrival on a very wet, rainy Calgary late afternoon. Impatient to see the Mecca of their dreams, they drove directly to the north of the city, only to find themselves in, as far as the eye could see, rolling hills of mud, articulated here and there with construction equipment and a building. After extensive map reading, they concluded that they were in fact correct and that this was indeed their University of Calgary. Quentin sat in the driver's seat with the maps on his lap, 3 kids stared out the back windows, wondering what was happening, and Joyce sat in the front seat with 10-day-old Amy in her arms and quietly wept. The sentiment behind the tears had a very short shelf life, but left an almost crusader's fervor to create of Calgary the kind of social and cultural utopia that CBC had stimulated in her mind's eye, a vision that continued to expand and deepen throughout her life and beyond. Over to you, Shauna.
This piece is Caught. We Were Caught by Jan Truss. There's a noble university there now, but then, did it even have a name? Roughly, we rejoiced in having a university in Alberta of the South, albeit it was one, or was it 2 unremarkable low, flat buildings at the far edge of a muddy field. We paddled on slippery cardboard to reach the entrances and wandered bare corridors to find our allocated rooms. I'm 95-year-old Jan Truss remembering, bringing my late husband Don with me. We met Joyce Doolittle there at the university in her first days in Canada, her first days in Alberta. Experienced school teachers, artsy, out of England's goldsmiths, we were in our 3rd year as immigrants with very rural assignments. That Joyce night, we were looking for university courses as required by Alberta for its immigrant teachers. I remember us preparing to walk the cardboard in the muddy fields 2 nights a week. Walk the cardboard after a long drive after our work as school principals in Brant and Harrington. Can you find them? Look east and south of High River. One of those nights, we were trying to find the classroom where the next credit course was being offered. We barely had our faces inside the door when we saw a small woman with a rich chest. She sat at the authoritative table alone. She rose up, jubilant, loud in her pleasure that someone had come. Then she dramatically sold us her seemingly naughty offering of cheeky plays sizzling on the stages of New York. We heard her intention. Caught. We were caught, even though hers was not a credit course. I think her offering, the plays themselves, would be frowned on then, in that time and place. Of course, she needed the job and the income. Somehow, simply, we told her we'd find a class, some students for her. And to this day, somewhere in Brant and Harrington, there are farmers and ranchers, simply the unexpected, who attended that first Doolittle class, that first Joyce Doolittle influence. I believe we were there, as they were, for the rest of our long, forever theatrical lives. And back over to you, Chris.
This is from Kirk Miles, poet, playwright, actor, clown. It's called To Inspire an Ex-Student. Joyce Doolittle taught me playwriting at the University of Calgary at the start of my career as a writer. When it came to critique, Joyce was a hard ass, to put it mildly, and thank God she was, as tough love was exactly what I needed at the time. Later, after gaining some success, I had just finished listening to the Calgary Boys Choir perform a libretto I had written for them. A group of us were standing in the lobby, and some kind woman spontaneously voiced out loud, "That was lovely." Well, Joyce pointed at me and said, "He wrote it, thank him." It is hard to put into words what that kind of unselfish praise does for a working artist. To inspire an ex-student to keep on going and make more culture was just all in a day's work for Joyce. Back over to you, Shauna.
This piece is from Nikki Loach, A Little Dream with Shakespeare and Mendelssohn. I was a drama student at the University of Calgary from 1985 to 1989. I have extremely fond memories of being in a beautiful production of Peer Gynt, directed by Joyce and Grant Reddick. However, the project with Joyce that has the most resonance for me was an audacious one dreamt up by her and Quentin, and perhaps a woman whose name remains elusive after 30 plus years. I remember having a short afternoon rehearsal at Joyce's house to divvy up parts, then driving out to an acreage in Bragg Creek to perform a staged reading of Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream in the forest with book in hand in coordination with Mendelssohn's A Midsummer Night's Dream, played by a small chamber orchestra. We ran in and out of the woods for a small, delighted audience of about 6. Then were invited for supper at huge picnic tables. It was an extraordinary experience. We pulled it off extremely well, and best of all, it was all for fun. This spirit of generosity and pure joy had a profound and lasting impact on me as a young theater artist. I'm so grateful to have known Joyce and Quentin, theater royalty, eccentrics of the best kind, wickedly outrageous and infectiously artistic. And back over to you, Sally.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you know, how many times did many of us have experiences with Joyce and Quentin running through the woods somewhere, if not out at Water Valley and Bragg Creek, then somewhere else, perhaps on Hornby Island. Goodness knows. There were always trees, always good food, always good thinking, which was sort of fun. So we're going to step back into that dressing room at Theatre Calgary in 2011 with Brooke Johnson and Joyce Doolittle. And, you know, Brooke asks Joyce to do something very, very difficult, which is talk about some of the favorite people. And one of the first people that she mentions in the long list is a gentleman named Grant Reddick, who we all love, and we will see a little bit from Grant a little later on in the evening. So when you're ready, Alicia, can you give this a whirl for us, please?
Of course.
Thank you.
Who, of all the people that you've worked with, who do you cherish the most?
Oh, I think that my colleagues at the university who were like Grant Reddick, who taught acting, but he's also a wonderful actor, and Victor Mitchell, the first head of the drama department, who built this drama department from nothing into something, and we were all so proud of it, especially in the late 60s and the 70s. Because for a while it was, you know, the best show in town because he had such good people working there. And I really liked, now I can't remember her last name, Kate. I was in The Beauty Queen of Leenane with Kate.
Kate Hennig?
Kate Hennig, thank you. We were so complimented because Bob White, who directed it at ATP, he said, I want you ladies to know this is the first time I've ever sat in a seat for opening night.
Because he's usually pacing in the lobby.
Because he thought it would be all right. But I thought she was wonderful. And I'm sure she still is. And that was a big highlight. Also working with Dean Paul Gibson when I played in Vigil. See, these are all plays from my 70s onward, and that was a joy. I just could hardly wait to get to work every day. And Glynis Lasham directed it, and Dean played the man, and I played the woman. Oh, another person who changed my life was Herbie Whitaker. Yeah, because I directed Happy Days for the Dominion Drama Festival. This was before Calgary had a professional theater, and I figured out if I directed a play for the Dominion Drama Festival, people would come because they would come because it was the festival. They sure didn't like Happy Days very much. And so the woman that was not, she was a colleague of mine at the university who played Winnie, and we had heard that Herbie Whitaker didn't like this kind of theater, so we're sitting in the back waiting for the adjudication, and he started out by saying, my heart sank when I read that a woman was doing Happy Days in Calgary, but, and when he said but, we both went like this, you know, and he just was full of nice things and gave it first prize, and some people booed in the audience because some people had walked out in the first act.
Had Beckett been done in Calgary?
No, I don't think not much of that kind of thing had been done. Certainly not for a general audience. And so it was quite exciting.
And tell me more about Herbie Whitaker. Did you then get to know him?
Yeah, we sort of became friends. Well, I mean, not close friends, but when I went to Toronto, I saw him from time to time. And it changed my life here because I was this woman who was doing these peculiar plays for small audiences, right? But then I did it, and the bigger audience came, but it got this stamp of approval, so they couldn't ignore me anymore. You know, they couldn't just dismiss me as a flake.
But because, I mean, Herbert Whitaker didn't direct you as well. Did he ever direct you?
No.
So, but he was a theater critic.
Yeah.
Now, okay, you don't have that kind of relationship much anymore.
No, well, I don't know. I thought that we had it with Martin Morrow here. And now he's in the East. He's a critic for the CBC online, I think. But I thought he was very good. And Jamie Portman was here. Jamie Portman, started out not liking the kind of stuff that some of us were doing, but he ended up liking it, and we all became, pretty good friends.
Not saying in a way that your production influenced.
I think a bunch of us did, yeah. And I certainly think with Martin Morrow, he started out not liking One Yellow Rabbit and ended up writing a book about them. I think that's great.
That's powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
What else can you say about Herbie Whitaker?
Well, I just liked him a lot.
Smart.
Yeah. He was very smart. And he was a designer too.
And a warm person.
Yeah, he loved the theater. The critics that bother me the most are the ones that, when I read them, I think they must not like it very much. And if they have a passion for it, then it's easier to take.
Thanks, Alicia. So I'm going to read you a little bit from, it's an excerpt from an interview that Kevin McKendrick and Sheila Moore got together in Victoria. And then they sent me a copy, a transcript of their conversation. And it's really a great read. And for anyone who's been around Calgary for a length of time, it's a really, you'll recognize some of the things. But there was one piece I wanted to share with you that kind of makes me cry, so forgive me, but here we go. This is Sheila Moore, who was someone who was in my life when I was in my early teens, very much part of Joyce's work life, and she was an influence. And here we go. This is Sheila Moore talking about Joyce. She says, Joyce loved Calgary. She and Quentin were so supportive of everything. They bought art by unknown local and national artists, even though they had little money to spare. Their house was full of art. They would go to see absolutely everything in town, even later in life, when both were dealing with serious health issues. And we all know about Joyce's discovery of the pumping station near the Bow River that became the Pump House Theatre. She looked at things and saw opportunities. She was canny that way. I'd say Joyce was my best friend. We were great pals, able to confide our darker thoughts to each other. Her friendship was a gift to me. She was here in Victoria a couple of years ago. She and Quentin came by for dinner, and she returned to me this crazy nutcracker I'd given her so many years ago. When I think about it now, I think she was tying things up, bringing them full circle. I never saw her again. I miss her. Oh, I miss her dearly. Over to you, Chris.
This is from Eugene Stickland, playwright, novelist, columnist, buddy, all-around great guy. I have many memories of the pre-production time of Queen Lear, but the one that stands out most vividly comes from an evening when Joyce invited Jessica Dollard and Jennifer Tyerman from Urban Curves and myself to her house for a glass or two of wine. Joyce said, "I want to do a headstand." None of us knew quite how to respond to that. Joyce pressed on. "Can you do that, Eugene? Can you write a scene where I do a headstand?" I looked at her rather frail little body and asked, "You mean on stage? In front of an audience? A headstand? You?" Maybe one of the ladies asked if, in fact, she could actually do a headstand. Joyce set down her glass of wine, went over to her special little pillow, and did a headstand. She had swollen feet and wore oversized shoes, and her loose pant legs fell, exposing her skinny white shanks. It was the oddest thing I've ever seen. I didn't know whether to wind my watch or howl at the moon. She got her headstand. On opening night, one snarly patron asked me indignantly how I could make that sweet little old lady do a headstand. How dare I? Long story, I replied. Joyce was especially proud of that moment in the play. It really was quite a moment. Over to you, Shauna.
This is also Queen Lear by Eugene Stickland. Queen Lear opened on February 13th, 2009, with Georgina Beattie playing Heather, Joyce Doolittle playing Jane, and Morag Northey playing cello. It played in the Joyce Doolittle Theatre at the Pump House Theatres, a complex Joyce essentially founded some 40 years earlier. It was the only time she performed in the theatre that bore her name. Normally, I'm extremely nervous on Friday the 13th, but somehow I knew we would be all right that Friday night back in 2009. It was a sold-out house, as it would be throughout the run. I heard the applause. I saw the standing ovation. Night after night, we received standing ovations from standing room only audiences. Funnily enough, I didn't derive any great sense of personal pride from applause. I knew for whom they were clapping. I knew why they were standing. As great as it was, her accomplishment of turning in a masterful performance at an advanced age, there was also a bittersweet aspect to it. Everyone knew that this would be the last time we would see her in her natural habitat, in a theater, center stage. Back over to you, Sally.
Hey, thanks. It's like playing catch. Here's a piece I just love. I don't know if I can actually give it to you the way I'd like as well as I could, but it's called Going to Vespucci. And it's remembrance from Elizabeth Herbert, who also is our biographer. And I just love this little piece of writing. I'm going to read you just the tail end of it. It's about taking Joyce shopping when they had left 2108 and they were now living at Garrison Green. And Elizabeth writes, I can recall one afternoon at Chinook Mall being swept sideways by a riptide and flung into the spring coats department just when we were on our way to the lingerie. Do you need a coat, Elizabeth? It was a voice from the sepulchre. Joyce, you've been telling me for ages that you need a new spring coat, I asserted, drawing her towards me with a tractor beam. Look, we're in the petites. She was already flipping through the raincoats, head down. God, navy, bloody blue, all of them. But wait, I see something over there. A raspberry sherbet pink raincoat. Ooh. Joyce, I commanded, try this one on. I don't think so. Yes, you have to. And then she was at the mirror. Joyce Doolittle, front, back, and sides in delicious pink. She did. She bought it. With the music of George Friedrich Handel booming in my ears, we proceeded to the bras. Later on, shopping was too difficult. Sometimes I asked if I could bring her anything, and sometimes I just brought something like maple walnut ice cream. I shouldn't eat that. Why ever not? I have to watch my weight. I'm happy with my weight. You are too thin, especially around your neck. I can't help it. Do I look bad? No, just a bit sick. Are you? No. Where are the bowls? Not too much for me. I brought it for you. Okay, let's have it. I wouldn't want to hurt your feelings. The devilish smile, the hooting laugh. We ate almost the whole thing, Joyce and I. Yeah. All right. Oh my goodness. So now we're going to go into a really wonderful piece that many of you are familiar with. It's an award-winning documentary film that told us a little bit about Grant Reddick, the actor, John Morrell, the playwright, and Joyce Doolittle, I don't know, the everything. So with great thanks, pardon me, to Sandy Summers and Corey Lee, we're going to look at a few minutes from All the World's a Stage. Can you find that for us, Alicia?
Of course.
Thank you.
This article in the newspaper in Toronto, a little piece at the bottom of the entertainment that said, "Little Calgary housewife sweeps drama awards."
She just fed this community so much of her energy. It was a great treat to have Joyce in the audience of anything, whether you were acting, directing, writing, you know, whatever it was, just to have her there and know that she would, at some point, usually that same night, have something to say to you, candidly, and that she valued any of us that were trying to make art.
I looked over and I saw this brick building, and I went and tried to find out, you know, who owned it and what was the thing. And I saw the demolition orders. They were ready to tear it down. And I got some people together and we made a fuss. And I wanted it to be the least expensive, well-equipped space in town, so that small companies and companies that were trying to become companies would have a cheap place. And I found out this year that it still is the cheapest, well-equipped theater space. Isn't that good? Because it's almost 40 years. Who would have thought it? Yeah, I was very excited about the Pump House, but a lot of people thought I was nuts.
And when I talk to young theater people, the question I often want to ask them after we exchange some stories of what are you working on and how's that going and what's driving you crazy and what's not is, but aren't you thrilled to be a part of this?
Like the old film star, put a lot of gauze in front of the camera lens and I'll give you a performance. But the real performance is when you take that off and the camera's actually looking at the real you.
But the wonderful thing about theater is that everything is grist for your mill. I have ultimate faith in the arts. I mean, the arts to me are like religion. It's something that is so nourishing and it's so much a part of life.
You brought something that you made. It's the same gift, whether you bring it so that other people will praise you, you bring it so you won't be embarrassed, or you bring it because you hope to change things. As long as you bring it.
And there you have it. As long as you bring it. What a great thing, hey? What a great thought to have. And we're at a special moment now, and I'm going to hand it over to Alicia. I'm hoping that we've had such a technical time here moving things around. I hope this has been fairly smooth for you all. We tried to give you a smooth ride. Over to Alicia.
Okay, thank you, Sally. It is coming to that time in the event where we offer our heartfelt thanks to everyone who made the Joyce Project a reality. In advance, I apologize if I mispronounce any names here. We would like to thank the Joyce Project team, the editor, Sally V. Truss with Megan and Lisa Doolittle, the copy editor, Ina Spalding, the design and production of Evelyn Colleen, production assistant, Julia Hynotsky, biography, from Elizabeth Herbert. The art commentary provided by Mary Beth LaViolette and 60 contributors from around the world. Wow. We also thank those kind souls who aided their elders, Joyce's friends and collaborators, to get their stories to us. We gratefully acknowledge the Calgary Arts Development Special Grant to support this project. We also thank the estate of Quentin and Joyce Doolittle for its support. Sally, over to you.
Well, there we have it. What a year it has been working on this wonderful book. I hope I can encourage you all to support Shelf Life Books and run on down and get your limited edition copy. And I'm going to leave you with a message that we pre-recorded from Megan Doolittle. And just bear with me while I push buttons. And I should be sharing now.
So, it is both strange and wonderful to be here and to welcome our new book into the world, both virtual and for real. Lisa has told the story of how it came into being, and all I want to add is my thanks and appreciation to all those who wrote something about Joyce for us, and most especially, my thanks to our friend Sally, who had the imagination to bring it together. For me, this is a conquering of many obstacles and barriers of time and distance to find such a brilliant way to celebrate Joyce's life and what she meant to us all. It has been so many long and anxious months since I've been able to be with Sally and so many others who appear in this book. So it's a marvel to me that something has emerged that not only triumphs over adversity, but is an immensely creative response to our shared grief and appreciation of Joyce's life, one which she would have liked very much herself. I hope you've all enjoyed remembering Joyce through these collected voices.
And here we are. How are you all doing? Yeah, well done. And thank you from the heart to you all. Hope I bump into some of you soon. Eventually, we might be able to have a good old hug and imagine actually turning up at the theater together. I can hardly wait. Goodness gracious. Or to sing a song. And now that I know that Chris Hunt plays the banjo, I'm going to have to bring along my dulcimer and we're going to have a little hoedown, I'm thinking, right? So thank you. Thank you so much to Shauna and Chris and Alicia and June. Thank you so much to Shelf Life Books. And for all of you who have been part of this evening, I have no more words except that. Big love. Over to June.
Thank you so much, Sally. And thank you, Alicia and Shauna and Chris and all the contributors to this wonderful book here for this very touching tribute to Joyce. And thank you, all of you, for coming out tonight and celebrating and commemorating with us. I guess I'll give everybody another chance, if they'd like, to wave to everybody else and wave to Joyce as well. Here we go. Oh, this is wonderful. I'm just going to cycle through these pages here. See all these wavers. Hello, everybody. This is wonderful. Okay. I think that wraps it up for this evening. Thank you so much again for attending and have a lovely evening. And please try to keep cool. Good night, everybody.